Hello and welcome back to Low on Air Adventures. Today's episode is going to be kind of based around 3D printing and how the parts work with the RC hobby. The video I made about 3 months ago showed some of the stuff that I had already in my collection, kind of to give you like a baseline to know where I was at and to be able to build on that and show you how we'll progress as this goes on. The first thing I've got on the bench here is obviously the Ski Ride 3D printed snowmobile. I opted to go with the Polar files that replicate the Polaris RMK, the Axis chassis. Replicates that pretty close. The version that I did is all 100% printed in PETG, or I should say about 98%. There's a couple pieces that are PLA, like the bag and things like that. I ended up going with PETG on my track. The only hardware that you need to complete this is obviously the shocks and then the bolts and nuts themselves. Otherwise than that, everything is basically 3D printed. The credit to the files for this go out to Build It Better, is the guy who created them. If you do a Google search, you'll be able to find the files if you're into 3D printing at all. I did end up going into the mod files that are available for this that are done by third parties, you know, different people making updates. And there was an updated version of the A-arms. That ended up changing the steering geometry, made everything, the skis stay straight with each other as it moves up and down in the travel. Everything stays nice and square. And just made the snowmobile handle a lot better. The tie rods and everything else are better on it too. Temporarily, the electronics on this is my complete setup out of the little green Senton down there. So it is running a Spectrum Firma, I believe it's a 2200 kV. It's the Firma brushless setup. I'm running the receiver and an extra steering servo that I had. I didn't rob that out of the truck. But I was working with this 3D printing stuff, and this is the first big, larger scale project that I built, and wasn't sure how it was going to turn out or if I wanted to spend the money on the electronics. Obviously, that's an investment. So I decided to go this route first. I may change it. I haven't decided if I want to go something different on this and upgrade the truck to something a little higher quality, or which route I want to go. There's a lot of different things that I could do from this point. But overall, I'm really happy with it. I mean, it runs good. Everything works good on it. Kind of fun. I've had a really good time with this. Just dinking around with it. Have surprised a lot of people. Everybody thinks you're really, really good at all this 3D printing stuff, but then you tell them that, well, you can buy the files to make all this stuff, anything you want. I only modified just a couple minor things on it myself from the base files. One of them was making these supports to the suspension beefier. They're about twice as thick as they were in the original drawing. I went into my CAD program and changed that. Made some pieces to reinforce the skids where they are glued together. They are in two pieces because I used the Creality Ender 5 Pro, which is the printer I ended up getting about a month after my last video. So I've only actually been 3D printing about 2 months, but have been having a real blast at it. It's really cool. I mean, if you're into the RC hobby, 3D printing can really open up a lot of avenues. And it just ends up being a really fun project. So altogether, I think it's about 100 pieces for the Ski Ride snowmobile. But it ended up, being a really fun project. Had a really good time doing it all together. Gonna have to get some run videos of it here in the very near future. I'm hoping to upload a little more regular than what I've been doing here. The decals on it are just based on a Polaris Assault 850, kind of like a real one that we had in the past. The 85 amp is just kind of a joke. That's where the 800 or 850cc decal would be on a Polaris. So just the 85 amp seemed like a funny thing to put on there. And then the track length actually is 28 inches when it's all laid out straight. That's what it measures. So those two things are just on there more or less as a joke, just a nod towards the actual snowmobiles. The battery is just a spare one from my airplane that's up right to my right here. Just happened to fit. So just, again, used pieces that I had. And same with the electronics, like I mentioned earlier. We'll just kind of see how things go, if I end up doing an upgraded version for this or for the truck, or what exactly I want to do. There's a lot of different avenues we could go there. Next little update that I've got since my last video would be the Axial Capra. Still basically stock. Electronics are bone stock on it. The fender kit was found on Colts 3D website that is kind of a sharing place for 3D print files, STL files, things like that. I bought the files for this kind of Baja style fender kit. They use the stock mounting holes. They're totally removable. It's just something just to mess around. It doesn't do anything as far as giving you a mechanical advantage or anything. It just gives it a different look. That was a good thing to do first with the 3D printing, to be able to try a lot of different filaments and figure out what I liked and what was going to be tough enough to hold up to what I was doing. Ended up going with PETG at 100% infill and ended up with a fairly stiff, pretty tough fender. The radiator up in the back with the electric cooling fans is another 3D printed object, as is the little gas tank looking compartments on either side. They're just kind of fillers. So again, just strictly cosmetic, nothing that's going to affect or won't necessarily improve how the vehicle works, but just makes it look cool, and you can always go back to stock. This is a new one on the channel. I did not have this the last time that I videoed. I built a custom TRX4 body for my dad for Christmas and needed a platform to build that on. I wanted it to fit his. I liked his TRX4, how it ran and everything anyway. I was looking for a spare crawler, so I ended up buying myself a TRX4 Bronco. His is the same exact thing, but it's the Sunburst color. I didn't want to get the exact same truck, so I ended up with this one. Mechanically, it is all stock. I'm actually just kind of messing around with it, running the factory wheels off of my Capra. It's rocking some 3D printed bumpers on either end, kind of look like tube bumpers, and then I will try to give you a closer look. Printed an interior in this thing, and I don't know if I can get a good angle. It's gonna be really tough to get a good angle, but it kind of shows up in there, but it's a 3D printed interior. Still working on that. Again, just a fun thing to personalize the truck a little bit and just give it a cool look. Continuing on with the 3D printing is my latest project. I don't know how well, yep, you can see my shelf. Is the little overlanding camper. All the panels are 100% 3D printed. These were found online also, I think on My Mini Factory. And then I've pieced together a few different objects to make this my own. I downloaded a different file for a whole completely different trailer with the leaf spring suspension. I don't know how well you can see that, but printed all the pieces for that to give it a more realistic kind of look. It doesn't have a tremendous amount of travel, but it's just to give it kind of a realistic look. Still working on something for the windows, and then obviously I want to print some more interior details. Been just adding a lot of little things. The back is just a compartment basically with just shelves. I'd like to add kind of like a little sink in there and maybe some other little things. But other details that I added myself are the little scale 3D printed propane tanks, and then the base that they are on, and then several little small details. This, on projects like this is where things get really kind of out of control. These are all, none of these are working pieces at all, but we've got a little kind of a Rotopack style gas can. Need to do some painting on this, but little itty bitty little first aid pack. Just kind of a white jerry can. I was kind of going for like a water can looks on that. An old school Coleman cooler with the little cup holders on top. Probably like give you like a 80s to 90s kind of vibe. And then maybe move up to the 2000s with another little Coleman or Igloo cooler. That one actually has a little bit of a Coleman logo. It's a little bit tough to see, but these are printed in PLA. I added hinges on the rear of this one to kind of make it a little more realistic, but just totally for cosmetic purposes. Just fun to play with, kind of look cool. Just gives you some good details on that thing. Next up, I've had a lot of stuff on the bench here lately. This is my son's Christmas present, actually. So I've had this for a while, but didn't want to make a video and end up him accidentally seeing it or whatever and spoiling the surprise, obviously. The color comes out a little bit funny on the camera, but this is a bone stock deadbolt. They just came out later half of last year in this blue color. Blue and orange is his favorite colors, so decided to go with this. Fairly simple. I'd like to do a lot of upgrades to this truck probably as this next year goes on, but running some Injora orange bead locks, and then just did a bunch of decal work on it just to kind of personalize it for him, and made it where it's a really special fun present for him, kind of like it was made exactly for him. So ended up going that route. The tires aren't anything special, they're just some mudslingers. These are the same ones that are on my Capra. They seem to crawl good enough for us. We're not into competitions or anything, we just have a lot of fun ourselves, so that's the route I went. So it should be a pretty capable crawler for him. He's got an SCX 24, but I just wanted to get an SCX 10 for him, something that's a really good platform that he can build on. So that is about it for my updates. Otherwise, you guys, thank you for watching the videos, and we will see you next time.